welcome to the next edition of the About Small Business podcast. In this edition, I'm going to be talking to a businesswoman, Sarah Jane Phelps, from Practically Positive in Every Way. Sarah Jane, have I got that right?
You have.
I did.
There's lots of P's, lots of alliteration in there.
Lots of alliteration. We love alliteration here.
Just think of your positive Mary Poppins and you should get it right.
Right. Okay. Well, I got that right, I think. And so, well, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And so, Practically Positive in Every Way. Can you just give me some information about what is it? What do you do?
So I call myself the modern day Mary Poppins. I'm not going to come in and clean the nursery, and I'm not going to take the kids to the park.
You'd be glad you did that if you see the state of it.
But like Mary Poppins, she comes in, she shows the people that she works with the magic that they have inside of them, and then she lets them go off and fly their kite, and then she goes off to help the next people. And that's exactly what I do.
Right.
I come in, I help people to find the magic and the power that they have inside of them, that they've forgotten how to access. I show them how to unlock it again, let go of those limiting beliefs, and just step into their power.
So are you kind of, would people be right in thinking you're a coach?
Yes.
Right.
I guess that's
okay.
the understood term for it. So I normally say that I'm a speaker or I'm an empowerment coach.
Right.
Because that's the term that people understand. So it's whether it's one-to-one with people, whether it's in groups, which is what I tend to do most of. I'll do group workshops or I'll do sort of speaking events where I show people how to, I guess, access that what's inside them that they've over time and over experience forgotten that they are able to do. Okay,
right. And that's not your only business, is it?
It's not, no. I am a multipreneur. So I've been self-employed for coming up 16 years.
Wow.
This year I have a nail business. I've been in retail and customer facing for a lot of years. And I guess when I first started doing this, I came across what I now call positive focus, which is a mixture of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming,
right,
which is retraining your subconscious brain to be more conscious in what you're doing. Because how we think becomes, what we believe becomes how we think, becomes how we then act. And quite often that then gets distorted either through experience or learned behaviour. And so I help people to retrain that.
Right.
And I guess over the years I've worked in the nail salon, people come to me, they share their experiences. You know, it's a bit like a therapy
right. Yes,
session.
I suppose so.
We call ourselves beauty therapists.
Yeah.
And while we're not absolutely not therapists, people do come, and it's that shared space.
So
for me,
it is an interesting one. I mean, like, sort of, as a man, typically, if I go get my hair cut, it's a very practical thing. I go, I've got a wonderful hairdresser. But to me, she's wonderful because I'm in. Nice chat, lovely person I get on with, Jenny at Talking Heads. She cuts me hair. I'm done within about 10 minutes, and then I'm on my way. Yeah. I've always been fascinated by my wife, who, you know, since we've been together a long time now, but when I first met her and first had that experience of a lady going to get her hair done, and it's an experience, isn't it?
For sure,
it's very, very
absolutely.
different.
And I think, you know, I've been very lucky over the years to have grown a client base there where I've become part of their friendship groups. You know, I've seen people, you know, get pregnant, get married, get divorced, have affairs, have children get married. That, you know, that came to me when they were just little kids bringing colouring books in, and they're off now at uni and getting engaged themselves, and become part of the story.
It's just so much more, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. And for me, you can go and get your nails done anywhere, you can go and get your hair done anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's that experience, is that I sit for an hour with somebody holding their hand.
Yeah.
It's a real trust that grows. And they can come in and they can share things and get things off their chest because I know them and I'm invested, but I'm not in that, whether it's the kids that they're moaning about or the hubby or somebody at work, I'm not in that situation. So I don't have any emotional attachment from that point of view, where if you talk to friends and family about things, if you're worried about something, they could be worried for you, and then you've got to worry about they're worried about you. So I guess I create that safe space. So when I started doing the coaching, it was sort of by accident, really. I suppose
as well, through doing the nails and like sort of the number of clients that you'll have built up or dealt with. Yeah. You've got all those stories, all those issues, problems, challenges that you kind of have experience of. Absolutely. And also, you know, how they were helped to solve those issues. If you're enjoying this content, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to let you know exactly when another podcast's going to drop.
And I guess learning to listen is a real skill.
Yes.
And being able to even just hold space for people to get things off their chest. Quite often we don't need somebody else to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
We just need a sounding board to either air out our thoughts or just have a bit of a rant. Like, I think there's so much power in just getting something off your chest.
Yes.
You don't need a solution from people.
Yes.
I think all too often people will go about their mental health and people are offered solutions and we'll do this, do that. That isn't what everybody needs.
Yeah.
It's a sounding board, and hopefully I create that. So when I started doing, like I say, the coaching, it seemed like a natural, I could take all of that experience and use it then for this. And, you know, I've been told that I hold space really well, that I do it without judgment, and I'll just offer a shift in perspective, which is what it's all about.
Absolutely. So going back to your first business of your nail salon, how did that, I mean, was that something you always wanted to do when you were at school?
Absolutely not, no. I always wanted to work with children many, many years ago.
Right.
I wanted to be a doctor, a paediatrician, and then realised that I'd be sort of, you know, in my mid-30s, early 40s before I was fully qualified.
Yes.
And I said, it's a long process.
It is a long drawn out process.
I want a family, I knew I wanted my own children, and I knew that would kind of get in the way of that.
Yeah.
So I actually trained to be a nursery nurse.
Right.
And hated it. Because maybe hate is a bit of a strong word, but it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
I think that's often the case with a lot of careers, though, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
like you think, right, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be about this, that, and you get in.
Yeah, and it totally wasn't. It wasn't about what was best for the children. To get into the management side of it, which is where, you know, to make a career out of it, would be. It was about red tape and about what will protect the nursery and what box you tick. And I'm like, no, I was here to nurture the children and to get them to see how amazing they are.
Yes.
And so I guess even back then, it was that side of what I do now, that nurturing, that showing them how to believe in themselves, showing them how to be resilient was what I always wanted to do, and realised very quickly that isn't what I wanted to do at all. So I'd worked in retail, as lots of us do when we're at college and things, and I sort of fell into retail and ended up going on a management sort of track. And I hit my early 20s and was like, this isn't what I intended. I'm not helping enough people. Yes, I'm, you know, not blowing my own trumpet. I'm good at what I do. I'm a very good salesperson in that I can listen and help solve a problem. Again, those skills of being able to listen and almost ask the person, right, what do you need? Right, this is the product that's going to solve that for you. I would never sell anything that somebody didn't need. I could, but I wouldn't, because that to me, you're helping someone buy something, not selling something.
I think that's the thing with sales, isn't it? It's a lot of people that think with sales. Yeah. It's I think people's perceptions of salesmen. I was chatting the other day about sort of when we first experienced double glazing salespeople. Yeah. And you know,
car salesmen always get a bad rep. Don't they, bless them?
Car sales has gone an interesting way, because I think with Auto Trader and the internet, there's so much less room on their headline price, because you just get the app and it says this is a good price. It's not. You speak to them about it, this is the profit we can make on it, and you know they're saying we're making our profit through the finance or things like that. We can do something with that. So I think that's kind of solved that. But for the double glazing, it's I mean there's one very well known company that came round my house, and you know they just wouldn't leave about like sort of 2 hours, and it's like eventually I did not physically threaten them to leave, but I made it clear if they didn't get out of my house, I was going to remove them.
I've turned people away. So I used to work in mobile phones when the boom hit of mobile phones it first came. In some ways I say I was fortunate, because it was such a learning curve. And I learned lots of things. It was Orange at the time, who don't exist anymore, but they used a lot of really great sales techniques.
They were my first network, actually.
Absolutely great sales techniques that had real NLP basis behind them, about mirroring, about kind of getting the client to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I learned so much there. And the number of clients I said, actually, this is not the right deal for you, and sent them out the shop. Now, they came back later on because they realised that I was offering the best service, not just selling something to them. And I've tried to do that, you know, all the way through my career. And it's about making sure somebody can see, right, what's your issue and what tools do you need to solve it?
Yes.
And that's hopefully what I provide people.
Right. And that's for your business now, is it? Was that something that you, at what stage, how long had you been working in retail and things before you went into your nail business?
So I'd worked in retail in the nail industry. I'd sort of switched across from working in retail. So I'd been in retail right from being 16, 17 and had a part-time job, and worked up to it into my early 20s, and then worked full-time in retail.
Were you keen to get into work after leaving school? Did you like school? Or
I loved school. I absolutely loved school. I really did. I was quite a swot, I think you'd be calling these days. I absolutely loved studying. Still do. If I can do a course, I'm quite happy. But realised that actually then going to university and just studying further on a practical level, or a theoretical level, wasn't for me that I wanted to do something practical, which is why I initially did the nursery nursing, and it was obviously part education but part physical training. And then when I stepped out of that and thought, I'd done the first year and was like, this isn't the right direction for me, this isn't right. Obviously was working part-time in retail, so just up my hours to full-time, and then trained with Orange on their management track and worked for them for a good sort of 5 or 6 years. I then was speaking to the girl that did my nails,
right?
About like, oh my goodness, I'm at this point. It was kind of, you know, a bit of a flip, like, oh, this is now me doing it to somebody else. But was talking to her saying, I want to work with the public. I like working with people. I love that human connection and getting to know people, but I don't just want to be in sales. And she said, you'd be great at doing this. I'm like, oh, going back to university or college and studying beauty. But because I was then obviously early 20s, I
suppose you've got that early thing though with the, you know, you're unloading on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I had that relationship and understood the benefit of it to me. But she was like, no, you can go and just do a nail course. You don't need to do all the beauty, because I was an older student at that time.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Went and did a nail course. And again, very good timing. Nails Inc. as a brand were just sort of launching into the high street. So previous to that, if you wanted your nails done, it was a sort of salon experience. You could go to a spa, you know, it was a salon environment. So
just for those that don't know, like myself, Nails Inc.
It was a huge nail brand, sort of in late 90s into the early sort of noughties, that took a sort of a manicure experience, which previously would have been in a spa environment, on the high street. So they went into like Phoenix, Debenhams, John Lewis, Brown Thomas.
Is that the false nails?
So manicures, false nails were part of it, but initially it was manicures. It started off in London, for, you know, women who were in London and busy business women that you know, were going on a night out, my nails chipped, I need to go and get a quick manicure, and made it more accessible. And it went from nails being a treat for an event, and you know, I'm going to a ladies' day, or it's a birthday, or I'm going on holiday, to where it became part of your normal grooming. Your outfit. Yeah, part of your grooming, the same as getting your hair done, and, you know, all the other things that ladies do. And it became that much more commonplace to just have it as a regular maintenance rather than a treat. And so because I had my retail background, I did my nail training, and it was a really good mix. And I think, like I say, the timing was just perfect for me. Yeah. And that lots of the people that came into the business had been therapists and beauticians, but in spas, they'd never done sales. They'd never looked at what retail was. Right.
So Nails Inc., just so I'm clear and anyone else is clear that isn't familiar, I think probably the male population, is it Nails Inc. then, was that effectively another high street shop?
No, it was a department inside a department store. So like you go into into a beauty counter, and you've got Estee Lauder.
It's
and
like a concession stand.
Absolutely.
Right. Now I understand.
They did have a couple of other standalone stores in London, but the rest of the country were mostly in Phoenix, Debenhams, House of Fraser.
Right. Okay. And so you're working there, and essentially that's where you've got the marrying up with your retail experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And because I had that retail experience, and because I'm a hard worker, I very quickly progressed. Is that, again, I sort of hit that boom of it was just hitting the high street. Yeah. Worked for them for a number of years. And then as a company, they shifted, and our ethics of how the business was going didn't align with me. I'd been helping a friend out who owned her own salon. Totally sort of by chance, her nail technician had dropped her in it for a wedding that she had booked in. And so I went to her for my spray tans and things. She said, any chance you can help me out this weekend? I was like, yeah, of course. Give us a few free spray tans and I'll come and sort the nails out. And that's how it started. Absolutely.
Just what you're saying with your ethics not aligned, you happy to tell me a little bit more about that?
They got too big, too quick, and couldn't handle it, is my take on it. So where they'd been very much about, you know, making sure that the staff were well looked after, it sort of shifted to be, you know, more about the bottom line, and the targets went up and the bonuses went down.
I think that happens an awful lot, and I dare say it with the nursery as well, like what you've saying. A lot of businesses kind of do seem to go down that line. And I suppose, you know, inevitably there's pressures from the consumer on the businesses to bring prices down, to deliver more, and ultimately...
There is, but they wanted to be, you know, the sort of the Mac of the nail world, which, you know, Mac are a fantastic brand, and they'll go and do makeup shows and award ceremonies. You know, the brand itself is known for being not just the product being high end, but their staff being some of the best trained makeup artists in the world. The problem with that is Mac put so much investment and so much money into their staff to make them the best. Yeah. And I think Nails Inc. were at a point and they missed that part of what it was.
Right. So there's not the investment there.
It just didn't align with me. And so, I chose to sort of start looking for something else. It just wasn't sitting right with me. I'd had a really good run. I'd had some fantastic training, some amazing experiences with them of, doing nails on the X Factor,
Yeah.
doing sort of celebrity VIP nails, doing catwalks. I had some great times with them and learned an awful lot, but it just didn't sit well
Yeah.
with me and the staff I was then managing.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I could then pass on what was coming down. It wasn't right. So like I say, I'd then by accident set up my own business, which I always sort of laugh at when I think about it.
So you settled by accident?
Yeah, the lady, like I said, I went to do
Had you left Nails Inc?
No, still at the time, was
Right,
still working for
okay.
Nails Inc, but it just made that decision in my head that I'm not really happy. And I
Yes.
started to think, right, what do I want next? It was
You
a bit
need
of a
to change
crossroads.
something.
Didn't quite know where to go. There weren't really any other bigger brands that did that out there. So I was like, do I shift direction? Do I stay in retail and do something else? And that was, like I say, a bit of a crossroads if I'm not really sure. But again, as you do, you sort of bob along and think,
Yeah.
I'll think about it, and you don't really take any action. And then, like I say, the lady who I went to for my tans had said, can you come and help me out and do this wedding? So I did, the bride, mother of the bride, bridesmaids, etc. Thought nothing of it and thought, great, I've got 3 free spray tans in the bank to have done. And then a few weeks later, she'd messaged and said, look, the bride and the bridesmaid are asking, can you redo their nails again? They love them, and I haven't sorted anybody else out to do nails. I was like, yeah, of course, not a problem. I think, oh, great, I'm going to have free spray tans for life here. Did another couple, but then somebody else's sister had seen and somebody else at work had seen them. And obviously with nails, it's a very visual thing. You say, oh, they're lovely. Where did you get them done? And it very organically grew to the point that I was on an evening and on my day off going into her salon and doing nails. And then something happened at Nails Inc, which I shan't go into, but a promise was broken, and I was like, I'm done. I literally can't stay here any longer.
Right.
I will just leave, because I knew I then had some money banked because by this point she wasn't paying me in spray tans. I was getting paid to actually do the nails.
That's it.
I'd been doing that for probably about 5 or 6 months. And I'd never ever thought, oh, maybe there's a business here. Just had never crossed my mind ever to be self-employed, to be an entrepreneur.
So it is very much by accident.
It was completely by accident. And I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll continue doing that while I decide what else I want to do. And I'll look at other things. And I'd done some work for a charity, and I'd done some work for Job Centre Plus when they had their job shop at the Metro Centre.
Right.
And done bits of things. And I was like, oh, I'm not really sure what I want to do. And then I just got busier at the nail salon and thought, actually, shall I see if this has got anywhere, got any legs, and let's see what we do with it. And, almost 16 years on and survived COVID, here we are with now my own salon. I now have a beautician that I rent the room out to, and I've had, staff over the years to help me.
So how did COVID affect you then?
We shut completely.
Just shut you down?
Overnight, yeah. Yeah, I worked.
Did you get any help with that?
We did eventually, but not at first. So I worked till midnight the night we could close, like from the next day, and I got as many clients as I could in those last 2 or 3 days. I remember like literally kind of being like, oh, we've got 8 minutes left to go, quick, get this nail polish on. And then we all thought it'll be shut for a few weeks. They'll all manage. The nails will be a bit long, but we'll come back and I'll sort it out. And in the end, I had to drive round with packs for people to take their nails off safely. Right. Because obviously there's a process to it, and I'm a conscientious business owner and didn't want them damaging their nails. Yeah. So I did little videos online on how to take the nails off. I started doing little manicure videos of like, this is how you can maintain them at
creating
home.
Content though.
I guess creating content.
Did that help with your business?
I think it kept my customers invested. So obviously we were shut a lot longer than we anticipated. Yeah. But it meant because I'd kept up and because I'd gone round in my car and dropped off little things at the end of people's drives and just sort of waved at them from the window, it kept that relationship going. And it I guess for a lot of businesses, they just shut and that was it. Yes. It kept that relationship going. I
think that did benefit a lot if they were doing something online. I mean, certainly, with our band, we were doing performances every Friday night, and certainly we found that following on from that, we got a lot of people, we really enjoyed that. That kept us going. And it's just that sort of, we didn't charge, we didn't ask for, we did raise some money for charity, but for the most part, we weren't doing anything. Like, it was just keeping ourselves busy, giving ourselves some structure, and it worked really well and paid dividends. So I'm sure what you did. Yeah.
And the same, I didn't charge for it. Obviously, they paid for the cost of the files and the things I've dropped off just to cover my costs. But
out of interest, what platform were you using for that? Was it?
I'd been on Instagram, which is where I'd kind of had most of my, because with the nails, it's a really visual platform. Yes, I used to use it like a photo album.
Did you bother with TikTok or?
No. I don't even think, was TikTok even there? I'm sure my age, was TikTok even there? And, or did it?
Yeah.
It sort of, it boomed, didn't it?
TikTok
Yes, it
really
did.
blew up, and I'm just wondering
I've
because
never,
that would have.
yeah, I've never been on there for business.
Yeah.
I think I did watch a few people that were doing these daft like voiceover ones in lockdown, but
Yeah.
no, TikTok is not.
I'm going to say
for me.
TikTok really grew, and it's still. I mean, there's an organic platform. It's to
Yeah.
get the outreach.
Yeah.
It's still.
But
quite
no, I
good.
had a following on Instagram because it was easy to upload photos, because people could then come in and go, oh, can I have that colour, or can I have that pattern, but can you do it in blue? And it was just like an online photo album of what I could offer people.
Yes.
And so it was, customers were already on
It
there.
makes sense, yeah.
Customers were on there.
So you've been on Instagram, and that's your platform of choice for that business. Has that gone on to your other businesses? Have you used?
Yes, so I'm an absolute Insta girl. I love the visual and the sort of instant access of that, and having stories and doing reels and things like that. I am switching over to LinkedIn for this business. I've realised that my clients that are going to book me are going to be on LinkedIn. So while I'll still be on Instagram because I love it and people can get to know the me, and I'll share my little inspirational quotes and what I'm doing. I'm just sat outside your house saying that I'm going to be here. Kind of come in. I use that to connect with my audience, and so people can get to that, that know, like, and trust. They get to know me and my life. Yeah. And then I'll use LinkedIn more as a platform to sell my services.
So with your coaching business, are you happy for me to refer to it as so with your coaching business, how long's that been going then? When did you start that?
So started it, I guess, 4 years ago. As we came out of lockdown, I'd been talking about it. I'd used that time to study and do my NLP. So I'm a master practitioner now. I've done 3 different levels of it. And I started off initially.
So NLP.
So neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah. It's like a talking therapy. It's a bit like if people have had CBT.
And you've done qualifications.
I've done a qualification that, yes. So I did a very basic sort of level 1 for my own interest, to understand my own self and how my brain worked. I've gone through lots of things over time, and I'd come to a bit of a crossroads. And obviously, again, we're off over lockdown, and you sort of sit there and you do. Lots of people were like, right, where am I at? How did I get here? This isn't where I thought I'd be. And so I'd done the initial course just out of curiosity for myself. Yeah. And then as I got into it, I then did a second qualification at my level 2, which would have been enough to then go out and coach on it. Right. But I was just so fascinated by it that I actually went on and did the master qualification as well. Right, got you. So
was that a lot of investment?
Financially and time. Yeah, right. It took 9 months, and we had weekly live sessions with our coach who would train us in it. Right. And then we had sort of groups on the side where we would practice, and we had to do so many hours of practice on each other. And then was that something you had to dedicate all your time for, or were you able to work alongside it? Or so in lockdown, I went to work for Amazon. Because, again, being self-employed, we didn't know initially what support we were going to get. And even then when we did get the support, it certainly wasn't enough to have covered what I was going to say,
if you got any, which some of us
I was very lucky because I had a mix bricks and mortar building. Yeah. Then I got some, but it wouldn't have covered everything. No. And obviously I had to still pay me rent and me rates and me insurance and things while I was shut. So although I wasn't bringing any money, the business was still costing me. So I went to work for Amazon, but because I've got a little one, I took a night shift. So I did 4 10-hour shifts and did my 40 hours 4 nights a week. And so it left time to see my little boy and then to study in the meantime. And I think, had we not got into lockdown, I wouldn't be doing this. I think a lot of people...
it's still cramming a lot in though, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. But I am one of those persons that I don't sit still very well. So if I'm busy, I'm happy. But yeah, it was hard work. Yeah. But when I got to do the sort of second level, and I was like, there's something in this, and I then started talking, to people that I knew, to nail clients still, and they're like, you are great at this. I come to you and tell you all sorts, and they will... you then give me a shift of perspective, or you let me think about things a different way. And I guess I'd unofficially been doing it with my nail clients for years and just hadn't ever thought of it. They came in with their nails done. Yeah. But they did get a bit of a coaching session.
Where do you think that comes from, though? That people are comfortable talking to you, and just to go back to what you'd said about your nail technician who kind of helped you into that. Is it something that everyone has in them, or do you think certain people are just...
No, I think some people are just better than others. I found out just a few years ago that I am an empath. I struggle saying that because it sounds a bit weird. But I've always been, when I sort of reflected on it and had my own talking therapies and looked into, how my brain works, etc., I've realised as a very small child, I was always in our friendship group at all different stages. I was the person that people came to. I've always
Yeah.
been a good listener. I've always been a bit of a people pleaser, so I want to make sure everybody else was happy.
Yeah.
So I've tried to, if someone was having a conflict, right, how can we find a solution? Let's not focus on what's
As
gone
an
wrong.
as an empath though, like, so that essentially means that you
Yeah,
very much feel other people's emotions.
absolutely.
So if people around you are sad, then you actually do get quite
Yeah.
tearful yourself.
Yeah.
So
And how I discovered that is, so as part of doing my NLP, as part of doing this, I suppose, help for myself in the beginning, I discovered something called an arrow break. So most people won't have heard of that. And
Nope.
I then reverse slightly and think, have you heard of fire walking, where you walk on hot coals?
yes.
Yes, so most people have heard of that.
Yeah.
I do that also, but it's really hard to carry a bonfire around in your handbag. So I tend to carry arrows around with me instead. But it's the same principle. It's that mind over matter, that your whole body is saying, what are you doing? Don't do this. But that you can tell yourself, it's okay, actually, I have the power within me to do it. And so when I done that for me, again, as part of my own recovery, again, never dreamed that I would then make that into a business.
So
we'll come back to what it is in a second.
So you did the firewalking yourself?
I did an arrow break. I'd done
Right.
firewalking at a charity event years ago, but I hadn't done it for my for myself. I'd done it
Yeah.
as just as almost like an endurance challenge, because it was a charity
Right.
event, like, come out and do this.
And so an arrow break is
An arrow break, you write on your arrow a limiting belief that you have about yourself, or something that you want to step into.
right.
So mine, I wanted to step into courage. I had something that I needed to do and didn't feel like I had the courage to do it.
Right.
So I'd written courage on mine. And you put the arrow on the soft part of your neck, and then you step into it and the arrow snaps. It is the most incredible experience.
Okay.
And once I'd done that, I had, like I
What's
say,
the arrow made out of?
a proper wooden archery arrow with a metal tip. Obviously, it's a rounded tip. I should have brought one to show you. But
It does sound quite dangerous.
It's a proper archery arrow. It's absolutely not dangerous. The most dangerous part actually is sitting in the audience, because when the arrow breaks and snaps, the end of the wood where it's broken can potentially
Right.
catch you. That is the
Okay.
most dangerous part of it. You couldn't injure yourself doing it, but your whole being is saying to yourself, don't point a metal stick in your neck. Like, who would do that?
Yeah, it's not.
It's that kind of, it's not a normal thing you would do. And there's various parts to it. So it's about, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, because I ask people to put it on their neck and sort of just press it. And you can see people going, oh, I don't really like that.
Yeah.
But you do it a couple of times. And actually, by the third or fourth time, you're like, oh, actually, it's all right. And it's that metaphor of, like, if you do things that feel uncomfortable, they'll stop feeling uncomfortable.
Yes.
And the more we can feel uncomfortable, the more things we can then accomplish.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of it. The second part I ask people to do is getting to hold it between their two hands like an arrow.
Yeah.
And press, and it doesn't bow, it doesn't move. And what you end up with is two little red marks on your hands where you've pressed hard enough.
Right.
And again, I say to people that in life, you will come up against things that seem unbreakable, you seem like you can't see your way through. And if you just keep pushing, you'll just end up hurt.
Yeah.
But if you shift perspectives, you take things from a different direction, actually, when you put it on your neck and step, it breaks really easily with very little resistance.
Right.
And so again, once they've done that, they can see that actually, if you just shift how you're looking at something or how you're coming at something that seemed insurmountable can actually be really easy to achieve.
Right.
And so I'd done that for me, and it was almost like a lightning bolt afterwards of, like, I've got to share this with more people. People don't know that this is a
Right,
thing. I
yeah.
didn't know it was a thing. I've got to share this with people. And so I then started to do training for that, and introduce that into then my coaching. And I think very few people use it like that. So most people that can do the arrows are firewalk and glasswalk instructors. And it's used as a little bit of a intro. So with a big firewalk event, you would all put your intention in the fire, you'd help build the bonfire, and then it kind of starts to burn down, and you've got to entertain the people around the fire while the fire's burning down to make the hot coals.
I'm on a purely practical bit, I'm fascinated as to how you get insurance for that kind of thing, like for the firewalking.
So you've got to be qualified. There's about 2 or 3 different insurance companies that will insure you, but you've got to have been qualified by certain
Have you
people.
ever had anyone that has actually got burned, or have you known anyone that's been burned doing that?
No. The only injuries I've ever known of were people who were tending the fire afterwards, who weren't cleaning it up properly, who weren't paying attention. But actually doing the event, no one's ever been.
Right, no one's
You
ever been
sometimes get little, what they call little fire kisses on the bottom, so you'll get little red marks where there's certain points on your feet. But that generally tends to mean there's something you need to look at. There's a little chart that people can look at. So when you get them in certain points, a bit like reflexology, that will tell you, actually, you need to look at this, you need to look at that. And there's a whole psychology behind that, which I haven't gone into that side of it.
So that's sounding actually quite. It's going to be something. Let's be blunt. It's going to be something that a lot of people are very cynical of.
Yeah, for sure.
However, just what you're talking about there, it's making it sound actually that there's almost a science behind this.
Absolutely, there is a science behind it,
And,
for sure. And it depends on how you're coming at it. Do you know what I mean? For a lot of people, it's that faith in themselves that they're unlocking. It doesn't matter why it happens or how it happens.
Yeah.
It's that you have the power to tell yourself, actually, I can do this, and you can achieve something you set your mind to.
Right.
And for most people, that's what they need to. That's why they come to do it. It's that they're trying to get.
Right. I was going to say. So what was it that triggered you to do something like this?
So I'd had several what we'll call them, life events over my life, from being very, very young, age 5, and my mum leaving, which 40 plus year ago was unheard of. Families didn't separate the way they do now, and certainly the kids did with the mum if they did. So I was an absolute exception to the rule even back then.
Yeah, that is unusual. Isn't it?
Very, very unusual. And so really my, I suppose, staggers of events, that 5-year-old me, unbeknown to me, made ridiculous promises to adult me, which is what happens to us in life when traumatic things happen.
Yes.
We subconsciously make those promises, or we subconsciously start to form coping mechanisms that at the time is what we need to survive, but actually we carry them through and they no longer serve us, and they actually in the end end up holding us back because we don't know how to then retrain them. One of the things I think that makes me different to lots of other coaches that deal with empowerment and mindset is that I use very practical analogies. So lots of it to do with cars and sat navs or tools. Because when you start talking about emotions and all how your brain works, most people just haven't got a clue. But I always say, if you come at a problem at age 5, all I had was a hammer, and I could nail in a hammer. I could nail in a nail. But as I got a bit older, I had a screw. Now I could still nail in that screw, but it was much more difficult. But I didn't have a screwdriver until I got a bit older. And then when I had the screwdriver, it actually made that much easier that I could do that. And it's about that. It's about, as we grow older, we don't expand that toolbox. We don't have the right tool for the job. So we make do with the tools that we have, which is fine at the time. I always say we do best that we can at the time with the tools that we have at the time. But unless you start to expand that toolbox, actually they become not relevant or not useful to get the job done properly.
And I suppose they form habits as well, don't they? If you're used to using the hammer,
then you're comfy with that. You know that you know what you can do it. So it's about that. It's about kind of making sure that you have the right tools to do the things that you have, and that understand that how you did something in the past wasn't wrong. It's what you did at the time, but there's now a different way to do it.
I don't know if you'll know this.
Different.
What percentage of the population, I mean, I don't know if you've got any stats on this, but what percentage of the population never do anything about these past traumas,
Sadly, quite a lot. I mean, I wouldn't know an exact percentage, but certainly I would say at least 60%.
I'm just thinking, I mean, like I say, I'm in my early 50s, and certainly going through life, I can't imagine, it's not something I've done for myself. Most, again, men that I know, and I think part of the issue is showing now, like sort of with the male suicide rates.
Because it affects men much more than women.
It's like sort of when I'm part of the generation that grew up. You had to be told to be a tough guy. And I mean, I'm not, I'm not a scrapper or anything like that. Relatively at ease with that. Like you commented when you came in about the guitars. Behind these acoustic panels, there's boxes of comics, and I was quite happy being a nerd. But then at the same time, I was also quite big when I was a kid, so I didn't get very much grief about it. But it does strike me the number of people that never do anything about these issues.
Because some people don't know where to go for help, which is how it started, me doing this. They just don't know that there's another way to be out there. They don't know there's a different way to feel.
Most people are still not gonna though, are they? Because I mean, like you've just said, you actively sort something out. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah, and you actively sort something out, which... I mean, whatever you think of it, you put your money where your mouth is with this, and you're firmly bought into literally this process.
I mean, I paid thousands of pounds to be able to do what I do because I saw the impact it had for me. I hate the word journey. I feel like I'm on X Factor, but I had a journey, and I learned all these different ways to overcome all the things and all the barriers and the limitations I had. And I wanted my journey to be somebody else's roadmap. So they could avoid the pitfalls, they could find the better way around. Now, it's not going to be for everybody. I absolutely get that. I always say, take what you want and leave the rest. But all of the things that I teach things, they're very practical, scientific things that we can all apply. Nothing I teach is complicated.
No.
But it's hard. And that's where people fall.
Do you come across a lot of cynicism?
Yeah.
Just when you're chatting to even friends, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, people like just come on.
Yeah, I mean, most people, you know, if I walk in the room with my arrows in my handbag, and
they'd be quite intimidated.
Well, they're always intrigued first of all, which is why I do it, because people will come over and go, "Oh, what is that all about?" And then I always start with the shock factor, and I say, "Well, what I do is I put it on your neck, and then you walk into it and it breaks, and they all go, 'What now?' And I love when I get that reaction, because people are like, 'What?' But you can then, that really easily, people will then go, 'Oh my goodness, tell me more, I want to know about this.' Or people are like, 'Oh, that's not for me, it's too,' and it just,
I suppose if you demonstrate to someone what they can do.
Absolutely, you can straight away see, right, how am I going to explain it to this person?
I suppose shattering their expectations.
Yeah.
Again, unintentional sort of metaphor, the shattering arrow. But I mean, yeah, I suppose that is going to work. 'Cause I mean, I was going to say, how do you deal with the cynicism? And I suppose if you can demonstrate something like that, then showing people is...
And I think because I can say this literally changed my life, you know, and I don't say that flippantly, I really don't. It absolutely changed my life. I want to be able to give that gift because I know what it did for me. I know what it's done for other people that I've worked with.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to give that to as many people as possible. Because I wish somebody else had given me the tools.
Yes.
So I could have got there quicker.
What's the most practical way this approach has helped you in, would you say?
In how I respond to things now and not react. And when somebody first said to me, respond to something and don't react to something, I was like, well, that's the same thing. It's just different words for it. But actually, a reaction is something we do without thinking. It's subconscious and it's generally emotion driven.
It's
instinctive, but it's very much emotion driven.
Yes.
When we respond to something, it's logic driven, which set much better with me anyway, because I'm a logical person. But also, if it's against a challenge or an obstacle, if you come to something with logic, it's much harder to argue against.
Well, they say
with emotion.
Never make a decision in anger.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's as much as just stopping and saying, right, think. Because all too often my defect, if you like, is that I'll say something too quickly rather than pausing and just give myself a minute. And I always, you know, if someone sent you a message or someone said something to you, if it's face to face, it's harder because you can't go, give us 3 minutes, I'm going to go and process that. But even just that think will give you a couple of seconds to just stop that response happening so quickly, that reaction happening so quickly, so you can respond more logically. But if it's a message, you know, that someone sent you, or a post on Facebook or whatever it might be, I always say, people, instantly reply with that emotion, but then don't send it, put your phone down and go back 5 minutes later. If you still want to say what you're saying, then you mean it. If you don't, and you probably won't, then actually look at how you can say that instead. And the difference that's made in looking at, you know, what's the next step. I was very much a what if person, you know, what if. And I used to say my brain was, I'm sure my age, but it was like those sort of 19 magazine things where you'd start with 2 questions at the top. And if it's this, yes. And if it's this, no. And then if it's that, go here. And by the bottom, you had 27 different options. My brain did that all the time with every situation, with every scenario. What if this? What if that? And it was exhausting. Yeah. Because you were permanently trying to work stuff out. And actually, in hindsight, none of the things that I would imagine was probably what happened anyway. It was something that I hadn't thought of.
That's it. It's just massive overthinking.
And you wasted all of that time and energy doing it.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned to do now, and what has absolutely shifted how I live my life and how I show up, and what I let affect me anymore, is that, right, what's the next thing I need to do? Not what's going to happen 10 steps down, just what is the next thing? Don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. Yeah. What's the next step I need to take? I'll do that, and then I'll worry about the next thing when I get to the next thing, because I don't know what those 2 options are. And that's had a huge shift in, you know, not taking things too personally, not being a people pleaser, and learning to put me first, which isn't selfish at all. I used to think that was really selfish, putting me first, but actually, if I'm not looking after me, I can't help other people. Absolutely. You've got to sort yourself, like they tell you on an aeroplane, sort yourself first and then help others. Absolutely. And I think if I can live by that example, I always say you can't change somebody else's behaviour, but you can change how you react and respond around them. Yes. And by default, that will then change how they are, because like a naughty child, if they keep being naughty and give them attention, they'll keep being naughty. If you stop giving them attention for being naughty, they'll find a different way. Yeah. And so by not taking offence at what people said, I remember my dad saying to me, you know, it says it right there, just don't take offence. You don't have to take it. Yeah. Their opinion, just go, yeah, thanks very much. Yeah. And then leave it if it doesn't serve you. That's it. What other people think of you is none of your business. Absolutely. So, yeah. And so moving forward then, you've got your nail salon, you've got your
other two businesses moving forward? What's the future look like for you?
So this year is Project Spotlight. It's all about getting me on more stages, more places like this where I can share what I do, so that I can, you know, go out and give people these tools so they can expand their toolkit.
How
so
would
they
someone
can do it.
know to come that you can help them? How would
So if somebody is feeling a little bit lost, or they just don't feel like they're in control of what's happening in their life, like they're going through the emotions, like this, you know, they either have forgotten how to imagine what else could be possible, or that they know there's something else there, they just don't know what to do about it, then that is the sort of point. Because I think I could help lots of people, and probably actually most people could do with doing some of what I do, but unless you have that awareness,
I was going to say that's what strikes me. I
then
think
it's
there's probably
not,
a lot of people that it would benefit.
Absolutely, but you're never going to know, or your self-worth is so low, you don't think you're worth that help, and so you know, you can't help someone. Was it they say you can take a house to water, you can't make them drink. But if you've got that awareness of, look, I'm not happy where I am, but I don't know how to change it, that is who that, you know, come to me and do a workshop, have a one-to-one with me, speak to me. If you've got, you know, I work with businesses and organisations. I went with a couple of charities this year where I'm going in and helping their service users and doing a series of workshops to help them just have the tools to be able to put this into your day-to-day life. Lots of people will go and hear a motivational speaker or work with a coach, and you feel great while you're doing it. You know, even from a business point of view, if you're networking, you feel great and you're like, oh, I can take on the world. But then when you're not around those like-minded people, you go back to your life and life gets in the way and stuff happens. People, places, things happen. And so I give people that toolkit so when you don't feel like you've got that support around you, you can go back to the toolkit and go, right, what do I need to do to move forward again?
And that's a way forward. So anyone that wants that, anyone that's feeling that way, they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, come to the website.
And that's it. And if you'd send me a link to that, we can put that in the description. But Sarah Jane, it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you all the best for what you're doing. It sounds like an amazing project. Thank you very much.